Assassin's Creed, a stealth action adventure video game series spanning over 12 years, with 11 main games and 10 side games. The series has been around a long time, with its ups like Assassin's Creed 2 and its downs like Unity and Syndicate. The series has definitely had some rough times, and with its latest release Odyssey, I felt somewhat disappointed. And that is due to the simple fact that Assassin's Creed Origins is a much better game all around than compared to Odyssey. So first, let's start off with a little history lesson and a background to Assassin's Creed. So how was it that this multi-million-dollar series came to be? Well, believe it or not, Assassin's Creed was originally a Prince of Persia game where it centered around an assassin as the prince's bodyguard, and early versions of this game very much resembles the original Assassin's Creed, but unfortunately the game was considered almost to be too ambitious. Without the player playing the prince, the higher ups at Ubisoft saw the game as pointless and was scrapped. But the dev team decided to come up with a new idea and a new IP, and completely scrapped the Prince of Persia aspect, and instead focused on the assassin himself. From that idea, something new was created: Assassin's Creed. So Assassin's Creed Origins, why is it better? Isn't new always better? Well, no, especially when it comes to video games, and especially when it comes to video games from Ubisoft. We've seen throughout with past releases that nearly every time the series has upgraded, its engine or some major gameplay aspect that's been changed, always flopped. Almost always. I mean, look at Unity for example. It was a buggy mess that, even though it improved many parts of the game, unfortunately had made so much more mistakes and improvements. And we saw this in AC3 as well. But Origins, almost a completely different game to Syndicate, was a massive improvement and a refresher that the series needed by changing the combat, storytelling, and even going as far to make it another game genre by adding many RPG mechanics to the game. Overall, Origins was a major success, and something that at the time the series really needed. See, Origins is a little special. It's the first game since Assassin's Creed 2 to have a 2-year gap between releases. And because of this, Origins mechanics were so refined and polished that the game stands out from the rest. It's almost a perfect game, with its new RPG elements, its storytelling, and changing the combat to a hitbox-based system rather than a paired animation system. With all of these combined, managed to revitalize a dying series. By changing the combat of Origins to a hit-based system, the game's weapon system had to be completely changed as well, with weapons now having levels and damage ratings, and speed and range as well. With all of these, it really made you think what weapon was needed, and what felt best to use to you personally as a player. The enemies themselves were also changed up, with now each given a level from 1 to 50, and all falling into different archetypes. And the player was also now given a shield, for the first time in the series, to help balance defense and offense. I personally found this system to be amazing, and I definitely prefer this combat system to what it was in the past entries with the animation system. The combat looks much more better, it's a lot more fluid, and all in all it's much more realistic as well. The movement system itself was also improved, with the player now being able to run and parkour with only the left stick. It was so much easier to navigate the whole of Egypt, which was made now the player's personal playground. The overall game world was refined and polished extremely well, with not being ridiculously large, but big enough for a game in 2017, and it managed to make it feel like a living, breathing world, something that some past entries have also struggled at. And finally, the thing that really made Origins stand out was its impressive storytelling. It made us feel as if the player was Bayek, and it really connected to me personally with the death of Bayek's son and Aya even leaving Bayek for the Order to become a better assassin and help the world. As well, I was drawn in and interested in the characters of Origins. It only made an amazing experience so much better for the player with these amazing characters. So look, Assassin's Creed is one of the best entries in the Assassin's Creed series. So why did the game that follows do so poorly and be one of the most average, overrated entries in the series?
I meant to say Origins is one of the best entries in the series, not Assassin's Creed. I meant Assassin's Creed Origins. Anyway, continue on with the video.
Right from the start, Odyssey makes its first mistake by giving us two playable characters, who are just devices used to drive the plot. Neither character has any real emotion or connection to the story, because they are two different people, and as such can't have their own unique story, unlike Bayek did in Origins. And even though Cassandra and Alexios are different people, like I just said, they're just clones of one another with no real emotion, and there's clearly no passion behind the acting in these characters. The graphics themselves also don't look great. The textures are poor, the draw distance is terrible, and along with the characters' terrible animations in the in-game cutscenes, the game feels somewhat unpolished and not so refined. And this is most likely due to the rushed release of the game, only being released 1 year later than Origins, but with 10 times the amount of missions and new gameplay features, which only made the game worse again, because for some reason Ubisoft thought that bigger was better in this game, and it really wasn't. It just made the game a lot more tedious and boring, and a lot harder for me to finish. On the other hand though, what Origins did right, Odyssey somewhat improved on. It improved the world around the player, and sure, it was way too big, but it felt alive for a lot of the time, and the world itself did seem to have a bit more variety in it, if I'm being honest. Although that is mainly due to the setting not being in a desert. But the game world was obviously something that the dev team had put a bit of effort into. Look, Odyssey has all the makings for a good RPG. Hell, it even has a lot of the ridiculous supernatural creatures that come from RPGs. And I believe if Ubisoft were given the chance to make an RPG with a different name, and it wasn't branded the Assassin's name, it might have actually been a great game, but unfortunately things that make an RPG game great, or okay, and when they're not executed properly, really don't make for a good Assassin's Creed game.